Championship hopefuls take a knock as Hill cleans up. This is the Knockhill review. Welcome back to the British Touring Car Podcast. That was shite. Welcome back to the British Touring Car Podcast, Knockhill weekend. Taking us through the action as always. Sam, how are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. Dealing with the heat okay so far. But yeah, we're in for an interesting day of racing. We're doing a slightly different format to last time out. We are going to be doing a review after each race, and then we'll have also a penalty corner at the end, wrapping up every little nook and cranny that might have happened that we may have missed as well. Apologies if we do miss anything after the weekend. It's just the easiest format for us to do it in when we're at home,
particularly given that tomorrow is due to be 32 degree heat and we're currently dying in 26 degree heat. So yeah, take that up another notch, and I don't know, tomorrow I don't think I'll be able to spell my own name coming into the day, let alone record a podcast on the back of a day of work. So yeah, we'll do it that way. Always good to have you. It was a good day's racing.
It was less excitement than we were probably expecting.
Yeah.
Although race 3 did try to make up for that. Stay tuned for that. And yeah, the support series wasn't quite as polished this weekend, was it?
No, it was all a bit meh, unfortunately. Yeah. Perhaps we built it up too much.
I think it's the fact that we were expecting changeable conditions as well, which we didn't get. So yeah, it kind of smoothed everything out. We didn't have as much chaos as we were expecting.
No, we didn't. There was no news coming to the weekend either, so the best place to start is on Saturday with qualifying.
Yeah, so qualifying on Saturday then, obviously still with the Super 6 format, so we would have the 2 split sessions first of all, with some notable drivers going out early on this time round. Ingram would be the biggest loser.
Casualty, yeah.
Starting 15th for the first race on Sunday. Rob Huff, Moffat and Pearson were also out.
Big names.
Along with some of the regulars that we would kind of expect to go out.
Yeah.
This is the first time we've seen a proper big casualty that we thought, okay, should still get through, but might struggle.
Yeah, I mean, even if you take Ingram as a shock, or you could put that as, well, maybe in the circumstances, Huff not getting through was a big surprise. But he did have a steering problem during the session.
But Moffat keeping up his strong progress of only doing one session on the Saturday and then going back to the van.
It's all to save on wear and tear.
Oh, okay, sorry. Right, going into the second part then, all 12 drivers would be out on circuit, and again we would see further casualties. Sutton not making it through to Q3 for the first time this season. Some big commitment laps and also some lap times deleted. It's what you're kind of going to get at Knockhill.
Yeah.
So him, Camish and Hill all going out in this session, and more surprisingly, Darryl de Leon qualified ahead of Sutton on pure pace alone.
He also had a little space expedition as well when he launched himself over the sausage curb.
He was very lucky.
He didn't roll. I was amazed. the angle, and I know you get cars through 2 wheels on there, but the amount he went up, I'm amazed, because of the way the cars are built. You can go back to Jason Plater's accident at Donington where he hits the sort of verge fairly slowly, and because of the way the car's built, it just flips it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm amazed that his car didn't drag the rest of the way and flip over. But
no, he was a very lucky boy. He managed to get it back down on 4 wheels and through the gravel, but yeah, did out-qualify Sutton, which I think will be a little feather in his cap.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, Sutton, for some reason, same with Camish, they couldn't quite get the results from FP2 into the qualifying. He said they'd set the FP2 fast times on mediums.
Yeah.
Bolted on a fresh pair of softs in Q2 and couldn't get anywhere near the FP2 time on the used medium. So slightly strange.
Yeah.
They've been battling a gremlin all weekend. Having that as we'll get to for the rest of the weekend.
So then Watson, Rowbottom, Morgan, Taylor Smith, Turkington and Cook would all go through to the final Super 6 shootout.
I always think you're going to say Taylor Swift. I don't know why.
One of these days I might.
Yeah.
And it would be 35 thousandths of a second to separate Turkington from Aaron Taylor Smith, of all people, to take pole position for race 1 on Sunday.
I'm going to have to get an AI thing to do an Aaron Taylor Swift.
Morgan would come home in 3rd, from Rowbottom in 4th, who had led both FP1 and FP2 sessions, kind of been tipped for pole position. Was actually lucky to get through Q1 in the end.
Yeah.
But managed to get it up into 4th with Josh Cook in 5th and Watson in 6th.
The big question going into race 1 was going to be, could Turkington use that rear-wheel drive to his advantage? Let's find out. Race 1 then, and the biggest question going into it was, what was the weather going to be doing? And it was dry and sunny, which is a great disappointment to everybody involved. Yeah. There's still time.
It does mean that there was going to be a tyre choice to be made, though.
Absolutely, and perhaps unsurprisingly, Turkington, Taylor Smith and Morgan all went on softs. Surprisingly, Rowbottom, who started fairly high up from 4th, was the highest placed medium car. He was, well, obviously on mediums. And then in terms of the championship fight, Hill and Ingram elected for mediums, Camish and Sutton both went for soft. That was a slight surprise. I would have thought that they might have offset strategy ready for the rest of the weekend.
For me, it was more of a strange choice for Sutton, being that he was starting down in 12th.
Yeah.
You'd have thought he'd have got that medium out of the way, done as well as he probably could done, possibly got inside the top 10, and then you're running soft for the rest of the weekend.
Yeah.
But he didn't.
He's now going to have to run mediums in the second race.
Yep.
That's what we're going to get to. So, as you'd expect, Turkington was the fastest off of the line. Yeah. No great surprise there. Rear-wheel drive off the line is always going to be the best. But to be fair to Aaron Taylor Smith, he didn't lose a great deal. Yeah, he didn't lose a great deal off the line, did he? And Morgan said afterwards his plan was to get him off the line. Yep. Didn't work out for him. Great start by Aaron Taylor Smith. Cook got into 3rd quite early on as well. On nipping past Rowbottom. He has got a fresh engine in the car after qualifying. They changed the engine last night.
Yeah, they said they found a little bit of an issue with the car, so he did well to get into the top 6 shootout, but then they wanted to make sure that the car was going to be 100% for today, and it certainly was.
Yeah, the race kind of settled into the first few laps without any great deal of excitement happening, as seems to be par for the course for race 1 this year in touring cars. We did see a nice little side-by-side of Watson and Camish through the hairpin. There was a nice bit of side-by-side action. I was going to lift my notes closer because I can't actually read them from where they are. There you go. A little bit of contact, and that allowed Sutton to nip by the pair of them, which was quite good for him. Obviously, on damage recovery after a disappointing qualifying session before.
Yeah, the Napa Fords and the Toyotas, Speedworks side of the Toyotas, were having their own bit of a personal battle in this race, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. Obviously, Huff was also quite far down after having some steering problems in qualifying, and he was trying to make the way through the field on the soft tyre as well. By the sort of lap 4, Colin Turkington had already got a pretty commanding lead at the front, and when Colin...
Comfortable, wasn't it?
Yeah, when Colin's out front like that, you don't catch him generally.
I think it was a combination of him having a confident car underneath him. He knew where he could push, where he could let off, but also the fact that Morgan was then trying to challenge Aaron Taylor Smith for second meant that those two battling were going to hold them back. Yeah,
further down the grid, Ingram was really struggling to make progress.
Really badly.
Obviously, he did have the medium tyre.
Yep.
But he wasn't the only car back there on the medium. There's a good split of cars in and around him on the soft and on the medium. And then the big problem for him was contact with Moffat going through the first corners. For me, it's a little bit over-ambitious by Ingram. Do you want to talk us through the event?
It was a slightly late move, sort of, but I feel like Moffat left the door open.
This is going through the first corner down the hill.
Down the hill, yeah. Ingram gets up on the curb, they have side-to-side contact, and then coming out down to the third corner, Moffat runs wide, gets a bit of a swap.
Runs wide, has been pushed wide by the move.
Yeah, it gets a bit of a swapper on and clips the front end of Ingram's car again, meaning that the bodywork would be pushed back onto the tyre. He lost quite a lot of momentum from it, and then the bodywork would start rubbing on the tyre and put a hell of a groove in it. He managed to carry on for about 3 or 4 laps until he had to come into the pits when, unfortunately, they retired the car.
I do think it had an air of desperation and frustration to the move, personally, particularly seeing how clean an overtaker he normally is.
Yeah.
I think that potentially is a bit of frustration, knowing that, and he'd been knowing that the title rollers are pushing forward. Hill had gone forward, Sutton was going forward, Camish was thereabouts, and obviously Turkington's leading the race. It just felt uncharacteristically, I wouldn't say quite go as far as brash, but not as precise.
Precisely what you meant.
Exactly. Precise as it normally would be from somebody like Ingram.
Yeah, I have to say, I think both of us believe it's a racing incident.
Yes,
there was no one really at fault. It's just how the side-to-side contact came about, and Ingram was the one to lose out this time around.
Add to that, you put in the elevation change, and it's all very difficult. We also saw some great racing further down the field with Camish and Huff, who were side by side for half a lap. Excellent racing by both. If you've not seen it,
it's kind of the quality of the racing that you expect when you've got two experienced individuals, as those two are, going blow for blow and getting cutbacks, and Huff did manage to come out on top in that one.
He did indeed. Ingram would retire on lap 11, having pitted. As you say, when the tyre came off, you could see the groove that had been cut in it. If only the groove was as easy to put into my wheel bearing from yesterday. Perhaps we should have done that, run it with some loose bodywork. But yeah, it was interesting that they didn't even think to send it back out on to try and get.
No, they had a quick look, and I think it was a case of there was too much damage to the inner arch panel that even putting another tyre on it had just done the same thing, and they want to get the car ready for race 2.
And you add to that, it's probably tracking rod damage, there's probably potentially brake bias damage and all that kind of stuff, and he then goes and puts it in a wall, going out for the fastest lap.
Don't forget that Ingram was on the medium tyre in this one, so he's used that one up. He's got the soft 2 tyre, or 2 soft tyres to use for race 2 and race 3, so I think he's going to be really looking towards possibly a race 3 victory on a reverse grid.
Interestingly, going into the race, Tim Harvey prophesied that drivers make mistakes around this track, and a mistake was about to come from Watson, who, fighting with Camish, ahead of Camish, going through fighting with Sutton through Duffers Dip and all, as he came out of the hairpin, which you either fly or you don't fly through. We'll come back to that in a minute, actually, because I want to talk to you about the sausage curve there. Let me just finish this point. He lost it on the way out, dipped a gravel on the tyre, dipped a tyre in the gravel, and managed to go for a rallycross across the circuit.
It was a seat of the pants moment, wasn't it? Because he caught the slide, went off into the grass, heading towards the barrier. The marshals took a step back, but he managed to collect it all up, and with a decent amount of grass in the front of radiator.
Yeah, that dropped him back down to 11th. Though I will say it was a good save.
Yes, very much so.
What do you make of the sausage curve through that part of the circuit? I mean, historically, that is where we see the cars go up onto even one wheel. English isn't my strong point these days.
For the touring cars, I don't see it as too much of an issue. We saw in qualifying, De Leon had a big moment there.
As discussed
yesterday. But it's the F4s and the Legends that I worry about a bit more, with them being so low to the ground, effectively open wheel racing cars. It's a permanent feature for this weekend. It's not something you can remove, like, dare I say it, a tyre barrier, which I'm sure Tim would have something to say on, but it's not something that you can remove to increase the safety of it.
No, and the reason it's there is to try and stop people cutting to get an advantage. However,
you can't see the corner anyway.
And on principle, I don't like sausage curves. No. I've seen too many accidents and shattered vertebrae in other racing through sausage curves. I don't like it in principle, and I'm surprised, given some of the ownership of Knockhill who's involved, that racers own this circuit, or at least work at this circuit. I'm surprised that's been put in.
But we'll see how it goes across the day. But
strangely, Hill was able to get past Rowbottom with, I don't know if Rowbottom thought he could try and get a cutback at the hairpin. Though, as I said at the time, you're going to try and get a cutback on a rear-wheel drive car. It's going well. Where that is one of the only traction zones on the circuit. So BMW's always going to be strong out of there, unless you're Morgan and Cook, which we'll get to. But
both on the same tyre as well.
It's a strange one.
There are a couple of defensive moves, shall I say, that were very strange in this race. Chilton had a couple of them, but I think he was masking an issue.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, this one was a little bit strange. I just wonder whether Rowbottom's going, I'm not going to fight this. He's got more pace, the speed that he's come up behind me. And then Sutton was going to be behind him anyway, which later on Sutton gets past him as well. Yeah,
quite possibly. Osborne, that was next to get past Chilton, as you say. That was a very strange move as well, wasn't it? Chilton. Yeah, I don't know how to describe this move, because it's just very weird.
So going down the first two corners, it almost looks like Osborne runs wide out of the second one. Chilton sees him in his wing mirror, gives him plenty of a wide berth, thinking, he might get there, he might not. And then turns in, and then he's there.
Yeah.
They don't make contact, thankfully, but it was a really strange
overtake
and sequence of corners, really.
I've not seen anything quite like it, because Chilton ends up breaking mid-corner because Osborne is suddenly there.
And swerving out the way.
Yeah. odd one, that one. Yeah. Very odd. But to be fair, if it works, it works.
It works. And Osborne was having a good race up to that point.
He was indeed. Next up at the front, Morgan was able to elbow his way through to second. Aaron Taylor was quite unlucky to be dropped back to fourth, as Cook was able to nip through as well. I think it's just about fine for Morgan. I think he's far enough down the inside. I think Aaron Taylor Smith gives him a touch back. They give as good as they get. It's racing.
Yeah, it really happens on the exit of the corner where Taylor Smith, as you say, has already given him the room, and Cook is then just dancing around behind them, trying to make the best of the situation. Doesn't quite do it at that point, but does get through a little bit later.
Yeah. So I don't think Morgan will lose that in the stewards' room personally, but we will see. As you sort of just covered Chilton trying to thing around, and as you say, Cook and Morgan then had treated us to a lap of absolutely superb racing where Cook pulled one of the moves of the season for me. I mean, he was able to stick it out. It
was set up about halfway round the lap, wasn't it? And finally completed down into turn one with an excellent outbraking manoeuvre.
Having been on the outside for a series of corners and sticking with Morgan, and coming off the hairpin when Morgan should have had better traction, sticking with him and managing to get down the outside into turn one. Superb.
Credit to Morgan though, he gave him racing room and there wasn't any silly business around it. It was a completely clean move from the both of them, and I think on speed wise the right driver came out on top.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. And the only last bit of action from the race itself was that Sutton was able to get past Rowbottom even.
You don't do English today, do you?
It's really not going well, it's the heat. Was able to get past Rowbottom at the end. I will say Rowbottom didn't make it as easy as I thought he might do, given that Sutton is in a championship fight on the soft tyre and Rowbottom hasn't got a dog in the fight, so to speak.
We both looked at each other and thought, he's just going to let him through here, isn't he?
And given the complete non-defensive hill at the same corner, he then fought Sutton a lot harder than he fought Hill at that corner. Now, whether it's to try and make it look less, but we all know team orders are a thing, and we all, it's not banned in touring cars, so whether it's just try and make it look less obvious, I don't know. But
I don't know. Yeah, Sutton managed to get through. He had a little bit of extra pace towards the end of the race. And as I say, it helps him towards the championship battle, with him only finishing one place behind Hill.
The thing is, Rowbottom is going to probably want a favour from Sutton next race, because he'll be on soft and Sutton will be on medium, but there we go.
Yeah, we'll get into race 2 next.
Well, we went into the finishing order. Which meant that Colin Turkerton took his 4th win of the season in first, Josh Cook second, Adam Morgan his first podium of the year. That took me by surprise, I have to say. Finally managing to convert a good qualifying into a good race result. Aaron Taylor Smith will consider himself slightly unlucky to be 4th, although he has won another independence.
Happy with it, I think.
I don't think he will be happy with it, no.
No?
No, I don't think he will be happy with it. Jake Hill 5th, Ashley Sutton up from 12th into 6th, so a good recovery from him, albeit on the option tyre. Dan Rowbottom in 7th, Rob Huff 8th, Dan Camish 9th, really struggled to make progress in this one, and on the soft tyre as well, which is slightly concerning for Dan Cam. Mikey Doble 10th, Watson 11th, Osborne 12th, good result for him. Smiley in the points in 13th. Tom Chilton managed to limp it home to 14th, which is, given what appeared to be a problem, isn't too bad.
I'm sure we'll find out what the problem was at the end of the weekend.
And Daryl DeLyon managing to pick up the final point, in 15th.
Yeah, Turkington also got fastest lap and obviously got that extra point for leading the lap, the only driver to do so.
And officially it was a cloudy, dry race.
We'll get on to race 2 next. Starting race 2 then, and Hill would be the highest driver on the soft tyre. Favourite for the win, you'd most think?
Yes.
Yes. Rowbottom, of course, was going to be up there on soft tyre as well. Do you think he's going to be able to challenge? He was obviously fastest in FP1 and FP2.
No, Napa haven't got the race pace to match BMW at most rounds at the moment. And Hill, when he gets that car, when he's up the front, he's very difficult to stop because he's got that car in a really good sweet spot at the moment. And he's proven very difficult to stop on track. So no, I think Hill was the smart money for this race.
Someone who would struggle to get started though was Mikey Doble, who just as the lights went out, his door was open and yellow flags were a-waving.
Yeah, the door opens weird. Like, was he proposing to jump out of the car and leave the truck?
You see it a lot in the lesser series that people will stick the door open and put their hand out so drivers can actually see that they're not going to be mobile. and it also is a better way to get attention to the marshals.
Right, I was going to say, because surely he wasn't proposing to leave the car. Obviously,
Yes,
the rest
I'm off, thanks, bye.
yeah.
It was pretty poor race for PMR though. Aaron Taylor-Smith was down 3 in the first lap.
Yeah, he just didn't get the car hooked up. He got a great start in race 1. Wasn't able to replicate that in race 2. It's weird, and also don't forget he was on the medium tyre.
Yeah.
Despite what he was chatting on the grid beforehand about him liking medium tyre more because he's got the data for it.
Yeah.
No, you weren't fooling anybody, Aaron. But yeah.
Yeah. Hill managed to get up to 3rd by the end of lap 2, and he was really the driver on the charge, which we kind of expected, making easy work of the moves that he was making, and it wasn't going to be too long until he was in the lead of the race himself. Couple of penalties to be handed out early on for false starts. Rowbottom with a 5-second penalty, along with Scott Sumpton. That one would matter less so, being down at the back of the grid. But
it's weird though, because the Lion got 10 seconds at Croft for a false start.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's a false or a jump or what the decision.
Yeah.
The final penalty we'll see, obviously, at the end of the event when all the
in penalty corner
stewards release their details. But yeah, we'll find out. But Rowbottom would go on to do battle against that in the rest of the race. There was a good move from Osborne early on against Watson at the hairpin, managed to get a nice cutback, and he was looking quite racy.
He's raced really well so far today in races 1 and 2. See what he can do in race 3. But yeah, no, he's looked very lively this weekend, and yeah, I'm not entirely sure. Is it definitely Sam Osborne in the car?
It could be his Scottish cousin,
because he's been making like moves which we've never seen him do the rest of the season. He just seems to he's either found a really good bit of confidence with the car, or he's driving like a man with a contract on the line. Maybe I don't know.
Possibly,
I don't know.
possibly.
But it's certainly improved this weekend from what we've seen. Very much more racing.
Watson would go on to get him back half a lap later, which would then put him on the back foot. By lap 6, though, Hill was through to the lead. Kind of expectedly. Turkington didn't fight it too much. He knew he was on a different tyre strategy, and he kind of just let him go.
What was interesting was in the commentary on ITV, Harvey said along the lines of, not to paraphrase, that Turkington's not in the championship fight, and therefore he'll be happy to let Hill through.
Yeah.
I agree with Tim insofar as I don't think Colin is in the championship fight. You disagree. You still think he is in the championship fight.
I think if you leave this weekend with 3 rounds left, less than 50 points behind the leader, I think you're there or thereabouts, because some people may still have a bad weekend in them.
Yeah, but you almost, in that scenario, you almost need the drivers ahead of you to have a double DNF, which is, we've seen of Ingram in this race.
Yeah.
It's just not, the smaller field and the way the tyres work and the hybrid allocation works, it's just not likely to see double DNFs in the same. Maybe race 1 and 3, maybe, but it's unusual, and you'd be banking on, if you're 50 points or thereabouts back, you are banking on double non-finish, or dare I say 12 or lower finish, which is not often the case.
You mentioned Ingram there. He was struggling to come through the field at first, being bullied, I've written down. He was being bashed about a little bit, and the drivers in front of him were in their own battle.
Yeah, and I think you called it right when we were watching it, is that it was between a rock and a hard place, or between DeLine and Smiley, insofar as, do you sit back, wait for them to knock 7 bells out of each other and take your opportunities, knowing you're losing time, or do you try and get through, but you're going to be roughed up by these the drivers who are fighting their own battles, and also they're fighting a touring car champion. They're going to want to show their mettle against Ingram. Not make it easy for him. They shouldn't make it easy for him. He's behind them on the track. They shouldn't just move out of the way and let him through. But I do think it did leave Ingram in a very vulnerable and difficult position, particularly when he tried to go around the outside of was it Smiley and got contact. Thinking, here we go again
into the gravel, and it was quite a rough ride over the escape road as well. Which probably didn't help the setup. He did eventually manage to make his way past that group, but it took him quite a lot longer than I would have expected.
Yeah, the Hyundai doesn't look right this weekend. It doesn't look as quick. All 4 of them are struggling. Take Houston as red to some degree, but Pearson looks absolutely nowhere. Chilton was
better in this race, but he was on the right tyre.
Yeah, but he still wasn't spectacular. He was still in that gap. And you think of the Leons as, the Coopers rather, as the quote weakest car on the grid. They looked very equal. Yeah,
you mentioned the Coopers there, and De Leon was making some moves in this race, wasn't he? He was having some really good battles with Smiley, with Ingram, and getting roughed up at times, but also holding his own and pushing other drivers out.
Yeah, no, I think there's a really exciting young talent in DeLeon, and yeah, he's doing really well in difficult circumstances in that team. He did well last year in difficult circumstances as well. There's a lot of raw talent there. I think we saw it a couple of times where I think with Watson, you could have potentially left a bit more space. Watson's retaliations will get, well, I'll mention it here now, biffing him off. Wasn't necessarily the right retaliation in my mind. I'd be amazed if he escapes a penalty for that personally.
But De Leon made a really nice move when they were all battling down the outside at the hairpin, managed to get the traction out of the corner and made a couple of spaces, one of those which was on Watson. He was overcommitted after that.
Well, I'm not sure whether there was a bit of damage to the car or dirty tyre, but yeah, he dips a tyre in the gravel and has a bit of does a Watson rally cross from race 1.
It wasn't Watson's only battle during this race. He also had a interesting coming together with Osborne, didn't he? Locked up into the hairpin.
Yeah, just like a torpedo. I mean, in fairness to Watson, that we've been seeing happening across all the sport series today. It's a commonplace,
especially the Porsches.
Yeah, and as I said on qualifying yesterday, you're braking in bumpy ground. So if you get it wrong or you brake on a bump, you're going to lock the brakes, and it's very difficult to judge the braking right, particularly if you're off the racing line, you're trying to make a move. You know, it's difficult. However, yeah, Watson, it's just not happening for him this season, is it? It's just not clicking at all. No,
as a consequence of those two battling, De Leon managed to get past them with a really nice attacking move coming out of the bottom of Duffers, and he's showing some good signs. Camish finally got past Aaron Taylor-Smith on lap 13, but it took him an age, didn't it?
Yeah, Camish, as I said in the preview, he doesn't go particularly well at Knockhill. It's one of his weaker circuits, and it's showing today. I don't know why. Look, some drivers just don't like certain tracks, don't get on with certain tracks. He's been fine, but when you're that far back in the championship, and he's still there or thereabouts in the championship fight. But I don't think he's capitalised enough today, particularly given where Ingram has been in race 1. Starting ahead of Sutton in race 1 and then finishing behind him was a little bit disappointing. All at the same tyres as well. Yeah, he's just looked a little off the... Mind you, he's looked a little bit off the pace, but Napa haven't looked as strong since FP2, really. I don't know what changes they've done to the car or what's happened. And we'll find, no doubt they're saying in a couple of weeks' time that, we found a bolt was missing after or something.
Considering how strong, I know we've spoken about this before, but how strong they were here last year as well. Yes, I know Hill took two wins, but Sutton was right there with him for the whole weekend. It's strange to see this drop off.
Particularly, in an interview after that, Rowbottom said that regardless of what happened at the start, regardless of the 5-second penalty, they didn't have the pace to the Hill period. If you could put you on the same tyres, you're in the car that won the championship and won. Sutton got 10 podiums last year. A third of all wins won. It was Sutton's last year. It's very, very strange. I don't know what. Is it a case of the teams maybe just upping the bar a little bit, or is it Napa have dropped off? Is it having to run 4 cars? I don't know. But it's strange how much Napa have fallen off the pace this year.
Well, as we've already suggested, Hyundais were struggling this weekend, and it wasn't helped when Pearson collected a sponsor's advertising and had to come into the pits with overheating issues. He then followed that up by coming into the pits a lap later, so there might be a longer term issue there. I wonder if it's got too hot and whether they may need to do an engine change.
I'm going to assume he came in very quickly because I didn't see any meatball flags.
No.
I'm going to assume...
So I think the team probably got straight onto the radio going, look, you got something blocking your radiator, or he would have noticed with the temperatures going through the roof.
Exactly, yeah.
Rowbottom's 5-second penalty was something he had to overcome towards the end of the race. He'd managed to get past Turkington, and the gap was fluctuating around about that 4-second mark. And then his engineer came on the radio and said, look, you got to do this in the last 4 laps or so. And he did it with ease in the end, didn't he?
It's gutting because obviously I've got a prediction this weekend of a team of a 1-2. And in race 1, Josh Cook unceremoniously swiped the car from beneath my feet. I was getting ready to call in my favour from earlier in the year where I allowed you the Euros, even though it wasn't to have Turkington Hill count as a 1-2. Getting ready to call my favour, and then Rowbottom decided just smash that into the ground for me.
Rowbottom came home to finish second on the road and after his penalty as well. Ingram managed to get 10th over the line, so we'll be in contention for the reverse grid draw. But Hill wins again at Knockhill.
mention to Colin Turkington there, who was the highest finisher on the medium tire in third, which is pretty comfortable. And the offset between doesn't look anywhere near as wild as the offset between the soft and hard we saw at Croft last time out. I think Sam Osborne deserves a fair bit of credit as well. He finished in the points in this race.
Just about.
But with a car that's clearly, utterly... I mean, the only word to use would be
I'm pretty sure something was broken on the back end of that.
He couldn't drive it in a straight line.
No, he couldn't.
It was swapping ends.
It was trying to crab down the road. It was weaving all over the place in a straight line, as you say. I wonder whether a toe link or something had been possibly not snapped, because you'd see the wheel properly rattling about like we were used to previously.
But it was flicking through the corners.
Something was definitely up with that car.
The fact he got that home to points.
Seems to like it quite loose.
Yeah, look, I think Osborne's been really good today. We'll see what can happen in race 3. If he can get another really good finish in race 3, then, that'll be a really good weekend for him. And he's in contention for the Jack Sears this weekend, which is where he needs to be. So Jake Hill won from Daniel Rowbottom, Colin Turkington in third. That is Jake Hill's 6th win of the year. Josh Cook and Ash Sutton 4th and 5th. Morgan dropped down to 6th. Camish in 7th, a little bit nowhere again. From Moffat, managing to recover pretty well from a disappointing race 1. Chilton 9th, Ingram 10th, Aaron Taylor-Smith dropping from 4th to 11th, and Rob Huff in 12th. Smiley high up in the points in 13th, good result for him. Andrew Watson got the car home in 14th, pending any steward investigation. And the final points paying position went to Sam Osborne. And the reverse grid draw for race 3, Jake Hill, once he reached into the bucket that was 3 inches above his head, picked out ball 12 to put Rob Huff onto pole position, which looks good for our predictions. It does indeed. It must have been a bit of a gag, because Steve Ryder's not the tallest chap either. And in the Louise interview, you could just see Steve poking, there you go, on screen, like, there's the bowl. Just his glorious hair and eyebrows.
It's like they must have found the tallest table that they could. To then put the bowl on top of it. It looked fairly ridiculous, but yeah.
And just one final thing from race 2. Officially, Pearson did not finish, which is of course bad news for the Jack Sears. That is as of TSL result. So he was on DNFer, which means no points scored in the Jack Sears, which is great for anyone who backed in the Jack Sears this weekend.
I'll tell you what, he's not having a good weekend in Scotland, is he?
It's not a good season, Sam. That win at Brands Hatch feels a long time ago.
Certainly does. But we'll get on to race 3 now.
So moving into race 3 then, and because it's England in the summer, this place has been baking all day in 27 plus degree heat. So any slight noise in the background you can hear is the fan, as I've been told on good authority Sam will die if it's not on. So
we have had completely clear weather at Knockhill today, so hopefully people haven't got too burnt up there if you did go. But yeah, it's been quite warm here as well.
Yeah, I will say it's sat in the sun all day, and it is now the warmest it has been. But, so yeah. It's if you notice a change in sound quality, that is the aircon. Tomorrow it's due to be even hotter, so had to record it tomorrow, it would have been on the entire time. So you've only had to have it for a little bit. So
I'm not looking forward to work tomorrow.
No, nor am I. I never do on a Monday.
No, you don't.
Anyway,
race 3.
Anyway, away from my therapy sessions. Yeah, it was Huff on pole, and the only 2 drivers who were starting this race on mediums were Smiley and Osborne, as they hadn't run them at any point during the rest of the day. The most excitement happened. Well, actually no. More excitement happened before the race started than the other 2 races put together, really. Dobble wasn't able to make it out onto the green flag. That bit of problem and was refined to the pit lane. Watson also pulled into the pits at the end of the green flag lap with an issue. He would get out some 5 laps later. Not a very good weekend for Andrew Watson.
Not a good weekend for Dobble either.
No.
From his dominance that we've seen in the Jack Sears as well, to only have 1 points finish. It really hampers, doesn't it?
But the age-old adage of every driver has a bad weekend somewhere. And Dobble has been sort of exceptional up until now. So back to the guys that actually were running. Hill had the best start. Ingram was very racy straight from the word go and was making his Hyundai fill Huff's mirrors as much as he possibly could. And Sutton was able to get up 2 places on lap 1. So yeah, a start you'd expect. Aaron Taylor-Smith went backwards, so after all the hugging and happiness for the reverse grid being the way it was, he didn't capitalise on it, unfortunately.
And then chaos ensued.
Yeah, chaos then, as you absolutely say, did ensue. Ingram was able to get into second place with a nice, clean and sharp move to get there. And then we had our first penalty of the day. De Leon really needs to look at how to start the car, because that's his fourth of the season. It's certainly his third.
Either way, if it's slightly out of position on the grid at full start, or whether it's a jump start, it's something, in my mind, so easy that you can work on as well, and just get that right. If you're not sure, be a little cautious on where you are in your grid box. You're not going to lose out that much to the other drivers on the grid compared to a 5-second penalty.
Pro racer coach.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, Ingram was then able to catch Huff so quickly. I mean, Huff had gone at the front, to be fair, while all the chaos was happening behind. By the time Ingram got to second, he closed Huff down in about a lap and got fully behind him and was filling the mirrors. And I mean, he was very, very, very racy indeed, wasn't he? They had quite a few exciting skirmishes, a lot of side-by-side action.
Darting in the mirrors from one side to the other. It almost looked at points that Ingram wasn't quite in full control of the car. Yeah,
I did think they were going to take each other off. However, it did look like it was going to be a matter of when for Ingram rather than if.
Yeah.
But, to Huff's credit, he was, in case you weren't aware, a World Touring Car Champion. It wasn't brought up at all in anything today.
He was using the hybrid early on, Ingram, trying to make the absolute most of it, and then didn't seem to be able to get through, and so kind of reverted to then using it later in the race and saving it up again.
Once again, Harvey's premonition came to pass with drivers make mistake around Knockhill, and so this time it was Dan Camish, of all people, who lost the rear on his own and did his version of rally crossing, which we've seen a couple of times this weekend. For me, that is effectively his championship over. Fell right down the order. Okay, he still scored points, as we'll get to when we do the roundup, but yeah, and this is what I was saying to you in race 2 about you not right interpreting of. The problem is you've got to outscore the drivers ahead of you who constantly get and score points. And that's why it's going to be so difficult for drivers that far back to overturn it now.
I think at this stage of the season it is effectively going to go race by race as to who is still in the championship fight and then who isn't.
Yeah.
And if you have a couple of those top drivers have a bad race, like we saw Ingram in race 1, then you kind of think, oh, maybe drivers are going to get back into it.
Yep, further down the field, unfortunately, Osborne had to pit with an issue, which is a real shame. As we said earlier, he's raced pretty well today, but that's the way of racing, unfortunately. It giveth and it taketh away, so that ruined his race as well.
Interestingly as well, Rory Butcher has been coaching him this weekend up in Knockhill, which I don't know whether it's a coincidence, that upturn in form, knowing the circuit so well and being a driver that was used to that car, but it seems to have possibly helped.
Absolutely. Aaron Taylor-Smith was then absolutely mugged at the same place where he was nipped through by Ingram. It's weird because when Ingram got past him, it looked like he'd been caught out.
Yeah.
And then here, it looked like he'd also gone to sleep because half the field came by him.
It almost looked like he had a problem, but he certainly had his keys, his wallet, the shirt off his back nicked because I think he lost about 4 or 5 positions in one go.
In one corner, absolutely. So, a bit disappointing for Aaron Taylor-Swift today because whilst he scored some good points and a 4th is a great result and he's done well in independence as you'd expect, I don't think he's fully maximised the positions he's found himself on the grid this weekend. Second in race 1.
He's certainly going to be more disappointed at this stage of the season knowing what the car can do with the start to the weekend that they've had to where they've now finished.
But I think it's also probably fair to say that the PMR is probably slightly better in qualifying trim than it is in race trim.
Yeah.
All the other cars are better in race trim. Depends if
vice versa,
if you want to look at it. Then we had sort of the big issue of the race. So we don't know fully what happened because we've only had one no replay of this particular
race.
Seen
it live, basically, and had to make a decision.
So effectively, Cook tried to go around the outside at the hairpin. Sutton was sort of in the sandwich with Moffat on his inside. Cook tried to go around the outside and then gets turned around by Sutton. I think it's a racing incident. It's 3-4 into 1 doesn't go. Sutton can't turn on the inside because Moffat is there.
Nope.
He has to make the corner. Cook's on the outside. He's just the unfortunate party that gets biffed and spun round. Doesn't go all the way around, catches the slide, but does drop him back some places, which would then be critical because he'd then be racing side by side with Morgan through the first corner. Morgan's car gets slightly unsettled through the bumps, spears Cook off. Does a really
he was so lucky not to collect someone.
He was
coming
very
back
lucky
onto the circuit.
the way he managed to get it all collected up, whether by luck or by judgment, he meant he joined the circuit facing the right way. So he planted the foot and tried to get going. Unfortunately, Hill tried to take avoiding action to avoid Cook, whilst also trying to make a move on Turkington. Hits Turkington because he's trying to avoid Cook, and then has to turn back into Cook, sort of bounce off Turkington into Cook, which sends Cook further around through the, it's not a tyre barrier, it's a polystyrene stack.
I think it's fair to say that once Cook has seen the replay of what has all gone on in this instance of a whole chaotic half a lap, he will hopefully have calmed down by that point. Because his interview afterwards was certainly hot-headed, a bit like Hill's after the incident at Croft.
Which you get because that's his championship probably over. I mean, it was never really on anyway, in my opinion, but it's definitely over now. He's probably hurting because it's a big impact. Let's not beat about the bush. He was battered about. It's going
to be sore.
Yeah, battered about by that. And to be fair to him, from his point of view, having only seen it once in the car, I can see why he'd feel aggrieved that in his mind Sutton has turned him round, albeit he hasn't. And then he might think that Hill has tried to be a bit over ambitious, not knowing that he's tried to avoid him, hit Turkington and bounce back across the circuit.
I still think Cook is trying to collect the car back up at that point as well, and he isn't quite in full control when you've got. People always take avoiding action, and sometimes it doesn't come off.
You can also argue the rules in place that you should only rejoin the track if you can do so safely, and I would argue Cook has not rejoined the track in a safe manner.
I don't think he had the opportunity.
I don't think it's not the choice, but I don't think he can then moan that he's been.
No, true.
I don't think he can then complain that he's then been hit again because I don't think no one's expecting him to be back on the track like that, and he's not rejoined in a safe manner where they can get straight up back up to full speed racing. So, and that's not me blaming Cook. I'm just saying that's another factor as well to why. For me, it's just all a bit of an unfortunate series of events.
Yeah, it was terminal damage in the end for Cook. He managed to limp the car back to the pits, but there was broken rear tow rod, there was plenty of impact on the car, and so he was out pretty much on the spot. But as a consequence, the safety car had to come out because of all the debris from hitting the Tech Pro barrier.
And then, in my opinion, it's a stupid decision by the clerk on the course, was to put the Tech Pro barrier back. So we had to have the safety car for that, which wasted 3 laps. But obviously we get those added back on.
I think it was the fact that they put it back without its cover,
which would have taken too long to do.
Yes, exactly.
But just leave it off. Just leave it.
It was always going to explode.
Yeah, the thing is, you put it back in there, it's just going to get hit. As you said, the covers are off, which means it's going to break apart on impact. Just leave it. Just accept that some for the rest of the race, drivers are going to cut the. They've all got the ability to do it. It's not benefiting one over the other. They can all do it, and just worry about. I don't understand why that's had to go back the way it was. I really don't.
I assume it's some sort of safety.
But what's safe about it?
I don't know.
But that's fine. But a massive sausage curve that can launch cars into orbit, that's fine.
Yes.
Soapbox will go.
Take the soapbox away now.
You can. Obviously, 3 laps on the safety car, which meant we got 3 laps added on. Straight at the restart, Morgan pulled off, potentially from damage from that incident with Cook. It's weird that he was able to do that to be on the safety car, and then I suppose slow puncture maybe, or
it almost looks like he had lost drive coming back onto the flying restart, and just pulled to one side, nice and safely, off to the side of the track.
Howson's the next to be in the wars, where he was absolutely biffed off by Watson, who's been a bit of a weapon today, has to be said.
The fact that Watson was 4 laps down at this point,
was it 4 or 5?
Yeah, 4 or 5, and they came together still, was a little bit silly.
And I have to say, in defence of Hazard, I don't think he did an awful lot wrong from the replay we saw.
No, I think at that point that he's gone across the front of Watson, the cars are already locked together.
Yeah.
So.
Again, possibly a racing incident. I don't think there's any blame on Halstead's part for that particular one. And I was quite gutted for him at the time because he was running in the points.
It kept him in the
points.
He
was still in the points because the cars behind him were a lap down, which was, beneficial for him at least.
Yes, not just him. We'll get on to that later.
Sutton started to catch Chilton towards the end of the race, who decided that the best option at this point was, rather than to fight Sutton, was to just torpedo Ingram into the hairpin.
No contact.
No contact, but
quite.
But what?
But
what was he doing? Why was he doing it?
It was weird. You think
he'd lost all concept of what a championship was?
Yeah, you'd think he'd be out there to protect, especially being between him and Sutton.
Yeah.
He's there to protect, be that rear gunner, and not take any chances.
Yeah, and whilst you would never, ever, ever expect a touring car driver to deliberately punt somebody else off to benefit the team, the whole point of Chilton there would be, okay, son, you want to get past me, I'm not going to make it easy for you.
It's the widest Hyundai in Knockhill.
If we make contact, mate, we make contact, that's on you, kind of thing. Not to go, well, I think the only logical explanation is to try and attack my teammate. I mean, seems fair enough to me. I mean, yeah, that was absolutely bizarre by Chilton. I think there'll be a little bit of, I think there'll be some crosswords in the Hyundai truck afterwards, because that cost Ingram any chance of going after Huff. Huff had managed to restart pretty well, although Ingram had put the pressure on.
Yeah.
But Chilton making that move, or attempted move on Ingram, took all momentum out of Ingram going after Huff, basically won Huff the race. And then after that, Chilton backed off, which made it even worse in a way. If he carried on, you might go, what's this lunatic doing? But at least he's sticking to the decision. Very strange. I think there'll be some words in the Hyundai bus following that. But as I say, Huff was then able to drag up quite a nice advantage at the front and able to take the race win.
Yeah, he came home quite comfortably in the end. From Ingram in second, Chilton in third. Now at the start of the weekend, Ingram and Chilton probably wouldn't have expected to get on the podium, but it was a tricky weekend for Hyundai in the end. Yeah, and they kind of made the most of what they could in that final race.
Yeah, I think that Huff was never going to make it easy. I think if Ingram had the chance of attacking for the rest of the race, he might have managed to get through. I don't think it was a guarantee. I have to say, I don't think it was a guarantee, but it was certainly made harder by the fact that he was unable to sort of go after him for the last few laps because of Chilton's antics. But anyway, it meant that Huff did win the race from Tom Ingram, from Tom Chilton. Sutton came home in fourth, so a decent weekend for him in terms of keeping the championship hopes alive. Jake Hill, who has had a stunning weekend really, came home in fifth. That was from 12th on the grid. Yep. Danny Rowbottom, Aidan Moffat next. Dan Camish recovered to 8th, which to be fair, considering he was near the back of the field at one point, is a pretty...
Safety car helped him.
Yeah, but it's a good recovery. Colin Turkington down in 9th, Ronan Pearson getting his points for the weekend in 10th, Darryl DeLine 11th after including his penalty. Scott Sumpton, really good results for him in 12th. Aaron Taylor-Smith finished up in 13th in the end, which would be disappointing for him. Chris Smiley getting points as well, and Nick Halstead rounding out the points in 15th. DNFs for Morgan and Cook, and Watson was non-classified.
Yep, too many laps down, unfortunately.
Which means that every driver scored points this weekend.
He does. Which helps out more people than that might realise.
Helps me out massively. So the championship is of course wide open as we go into Donington Park. We'll obviously bring you all of the preview for that nearer the time. Although I'm away for the actual weekend, but the preview will be fine. We'll still get a preview.
I'm still going.
All being well. Shall we move on to our awards for the day and our predictions? In terms of driver of the day, we're both unanimous on this one. We've both gone for Hill.
Hill, 3 top 5 finishes, including a win. He's the title prospect that has done the best this weekend and made the most out of even some tricky situations.
Yeah, and he's looking a little bit unstoppable at the minute, I have to say.
As long as the car's all hooked up and he doesn't get into incidents, yes.
Yeah, Silverstone I think is going to be the make or break for Hill. He's had both good times there and bad times there. Yeah. Harvey has correctly pointed out that if it rains at Donington it can be slippy, which would be interesting to see.
I hope it doesn't rain.
Yeah, Donington will be interesting as well. I think the longer loop will suit the BMW more, personally. Yeah. So I can see him going pretty well there. The qualifying might be quite difficult because there's so many places to use the hybrid on the full loop, so we'll have to see how that goes. But yeah, at the minute he is looking for me the most in form out of those top, I'm going to say it's top 3 contenders now. I do think that Camish...
Momentum helps as well.
Yeah, I do think Camish, Cook and Turkington are out of this now, personally. I know you don't want to write anybody off. You still think Aaron Taylor-Smith might win it, so you won't write anybody off, but that's fair enough. Villain of the day.
For me, although maybe not fully his fault, we'll find out after the weekend, most likely. Dobble's had a really poor weekend.
Yeah, yes.
I'm assuming down to mechanical issues. I'm thinking possibly an engine has popped on the line or something.
Popped out.
Yeah, something so substantial that he obviously wasn't able to get out for race 3. So it's kind of, yes, he isn't really a villain, but I can't choose anyone else to have had such a bad weekend.
It's not helped that everyone else in the Jack Sears had a good weekend as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I've gone for Watson. I think that we discussed it in the preview a little bit. Obviously, comparing yourself to Huff's difficult because he is a World Touring Car champion.
Is he?
He is.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I
Race
mentioned.
there with Chilton, do you know?
Yeah, and do you know Turkin's been in the World Touring Cars as well? A race winner. But no, it's always going to be hard when you are comparing yourself with Rob Huff. But what he's doing in the car at the minute compared to what Watson's doing, it is chalk and cheese. Another weekend full of mistakes. Obviously, he dropped it on his own in race 1. Was it race 1 or race 2? I can't remember now. He's dropped it on his own this weekend. The Househead incident is another scruffy. I don't care who's to blame. It's another scruffy incident he's involved in. And again, I think Moffat's outscored him this weekend, and he's had quite a quiet weekend himself. So, yeah, I would say that at the minute he's struggling, and I think that given he got a second here last year in the PMR, and no different car, different circumstances, you can't directly compare.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think that he isn't getting what the car's capable of at the moment.
Okay. Your surprise good of the weekend then?
Yeah, we all like one of Russell's left field.
Oh God, here we
sort
go.
of metaphorical ones. I've gone for the overall general quality in the Jack Sears. It's been a really good Jack Sears weekend. Look, they've all scored points out in their own in the top 15 standings.
Yep.
They've all scored good points in the Jack Sears. We believe Darryl DeLion's come away with the Jack Sears.
I believe by 1 point from Osborne, who has had
a great weekend. Waiting for clarification on that. Sumpton's, they've still all been really good this weekend, apart from Double. But then Double's been so good the rest of the season, and it's actually been quite nice.
Gives him a pass, really.
Yeah, it's just been nice to see. We've ragged on Osborne a lot this season for not, doing particularly well. He was really good today.
Yeah.
That's not, you've got to give praise if you're going to give criticism. Sumpton 12's a really good result. I don't care if the cars don't finish. That's a really good result. He's kept his nose clean in the pack.
Yep.
And given how far off he was in qualifying. House is in the points again, a little bit by hook or by crook, but he's there to finish first you must finish and all that. So no, I'm pretty impressed with the whole Jack Sears troop today.
I can get behind that, but my surprise good is the Leon on his own. Apart from that penalty for the full start, he had a really good weekend.
Did drop it on his own.
Did drop it on his own, but collected it up. Was able to score Jack Sears points in all 3 races. I think take it by 1 point as well, and in my opinion, looked the quickest of the Coopers.
I was about to say, I think he was comfortably quickest of the Coopers as well. Yeah, no, I'd agree with you on that. And now I've got no Dexter Patterson to say about. There's a real race. There's a real race for there, isn't there? And obviously they are looking to expand to 2 teams next year, and that'd be really interesting.
Yeah.
I hope he's able to stay on the grid. Finally, my surprise bad is Napa. But they dominated everywhere last year, but they were really good here. You can say on the one hand, well, Rowbottom got a podium. I think tyres helped out as much as anything else. Yeah. Sutton managed to do quite well in race 3, but Sutton. Camish had a fairly average weekend. Okay, Osborne went pretty well, but they seem so far off the pace of the guys in front. When the Napa car's out front, it seems really good. Yeah. Coming through, it seems a lot less good. And I say,
we said that about Camish last year, though, didn't we?
We did. And I say you compare it to Hill's BMW and Ingram's Hyundai in a minute. I would say they are clearly better.
Yeah.
And actually, I think the Toyota might be slightly ahead of them as well, particularly in the hands of Cook. More so Cook.
That's a little controversial.
I'm saying slightly. Put it this way: if the Ford is in front of it, it's not by much.
Okay.
I think the Toyota's a lot closer than they would have expected it to have been. And I say, the BMW of Hill in particular, and Ingram's Hyundai. Actually, Chilton's got some real pace in that Hyundai this year as well. I just think Napa have been caught out a little bit, and they are just not looking as good.
For me, surprise bad, I am going to go for Hyundai this weekend.
Yeah, double podium's awful. Two people on the podium.
Yeah, but in the final race, on a reverse grid, for the rest of the weekend, they really haven't shown much pace. They've struggled to get through. Ingram really struggled to get through in the first race, and then ended up in strife. Chilton had a poorish qualifying. We used to seeing his qualifying do pretty well. Yes, okay, House did score this point, but he was there when other people weren't. And Pearson really struggled early in the weekend. Yes, he's had a decent result to finish it off with, but anything could have happened in race 3, quite honestly.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, they weren't where I expected them to be. I think that is fair. It does feel that the front runners are all getting a little bit bunched together now in terms of quality, which is good. I think we're seeing each track has little niche points which means certain cars perform better than certain drivers do. But yeah. Hello and welcome to Penalty Corner in a very, very, very hot Monday afternoon. It's nearly 9 o'clock and it's still 27 degrees. So yeah, hoping you guys are staying cool out there. There's only a few penalties to bring you from the race itself. Andrew Watson received a verbal warning during round 20 of the championship for gaining an unfair advantage in an incident involving Sam Osborne. Chris Smiley also received a verbal warning during round 20 of the championship for gaining an unfair advantage in an incident with Darrell DeLyon. So that means that Smiley and Ingram went unpunished, as did the Morgan move on Aaron Taylor-Smith. All correct decisions, in my view anyway. Then race 3, Darrell DeLyon was unfortunately disqualified from round 21 of the championship as his car failed the post-race ride height check. The reason for the check was he was actually the winner of the Independents for race number 3, which is a real shame for him because he had a really solid weekend, but unfortunately they are the rules. This also means that there's no further action for the incident involving Josh Cook, particularly of Ash Sutton, and then later on of Adam Morgan through the downwards drop. I think those once again are the correct decisions. They look like racing incidents to me. That's Penalty Corner. We'll see you at Donington. Predictions, yes. Yes, so
it's a tight one, isn't it?
It is a tight one. I was ahead coming in.
You go in with a 2-point lead into Knockhill. We've had a couple of the same predictions for Knockhill. So we both went for Sutton for pole, which worked out really well.
Yep, absolutely. We both got 2 race winners though, because we both went for Hill and Huff.
Yep.
The difference is in that was I went for Sutton, you went for Cook.
Yeah.
So neither of us got that. Neither of us got the Jack Sears, because even if it is close, it's close between Osborne and DeLyon, not Pearson and Dobble.
Nope.
So nothing for there. In our generals, I got 2, so I had the whole field to score points.
Just a little bit.
Smug face.
So close.
This is my smug face.
So close.
I celebrate. The cheer. The cheer was louder than when Bellingham scored. That was a big, big cheer when Housen got over the line. Knockhill, baby. I also went for Moffat to be the top scoring Scot, which he did. I missed out on a 1-2 for a team. And now, in all 3 races, that could have come off. I really wasn't far off. So, yeah, that's how it goes, unfortunately. You got...
I went for, obviously, Moffat outscoring Pearson, which he did do this weekend. I also had one of the top 4 to score less than 30 points, which Ingram did do from that.
I think Camish might have scored less than 30 as well.
Possible.
Does that mean you avoid? You
no.
one.
And then my final prediction was
Toyota to outscore
Hyundai, and Hyundai had a poor weekend.
They did. And then we had the safety car prediction. I went for 10 laps, which was... the safety car hardly got out at all today. Right. Surprise, really. You went for 6. The overall result was 3, so you get 1 point for being the closest, which means we are both on 25 points.
Bang level, mate.
Bang level with 3 to play.
3 to play, bang level. You're not necessarily here for the next one.
That doesn't change predictions.
Well, you never know. Strange things could happen, and you may not be expecting it.
What?
In the lead, I don't know.
What about?
I'm hoping to take a lead, basically.
Well, unless you're going to get on the track and...
my prediction is there will be a streaker.
Unless you're going to do what Roy Butcher did this weekend and go and coach something, because of course we've already seen in this part that your coaching is top notch, then I don't really see how you're going to be able to influence it our way. But
yeah, it always runs close between us for the predictions. Let us know if any of your predictions came through this weekend. And going ahead to Donington Park in 2 weeks' time, if you've got any random predictions or things that you feel may or may not happen, let us know in the comments below.
Closing thoughts on Knockhill then. I have to say it wasn't as good a weekend as I expected it to be, and we perhaps overhyped it a
Race
little
3
bit.
Made up quite a bit for
but
it.
the support packages weren't great either. So they weren't particularly interesting. Well, yeah, they weren't particularly interesting. Legends was good. The final Legends race was good. Dan Zelos, congratulations to him, by the way. He's managed to win the minis with a round to spare. I get rinsed for saying.
Here we go.
I think he could do a better job than some of the drivers that are on the grid for other teams in the touring cars. That's all I'm going to say. I'll leave it there.
I know he's an Accelerate graduate, hopefully, but I do wonder whether sticking him in with De Leon at Unlimited Motorsport may be a really nice transitional move into the touring cars.
Yeah, as I say, I don't want to get too hung up on that because you'll rip me to shreds about it, but he's, in my opinion, I want to see how he can get on in the touring cars.
He's certainly shown his quality, and he's shown his quality for a prolonged amount of time.
Yeah, I just want to see how he gets on. Other than that, it wasn't the greatest Knockhill. It wasn't a vintage Knockhill until race 3.
Rain.
No, it was disappointing.
No rain in Scotland.
I know.
I'm amazed.
Maybe Greta had a point. Yeah, that's kind of my closing thoughts. On to Donny. Looking forward to the series. I think I know who's going to win it, but
there's
been a lot of ups and downs already this weekend, so we'll have to see.
Yeah, it only takes for one driver to have a bad weekend, and then it could be a lot to claw back with so few rounds remaining.
And Cook's giving nobody any favours, as he said in his interview afterwards. So.
I wonder whether we'll see an apology from him at Donington just before the weekend starts.
No. No, because to be fairness, Hill blames basically said the stewards didn't do their job properly, which is slightly different than Cook saying that Sutton was a bit aggressive, which I don't think anyone will go, Sutton? Aggressive? What? No!
But yeah, until then, we will be back, of course, with a preview for Donington, and hopefully I will be down there, and if you do see me, say hello. And
you'll have stickers?
I will have stickers. And until then, stay safe, and we'll be back once it's hopefully cooled down a little bit.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So I was just looking, that's almost like the flight number that's missing is NH70, which is close to, was it MH700? The flight they're missing over Malaysia. I can't remember. It's close, isn't it?